Welcome to the Rex Andrews Show. Glad to have you with us. If you are a first-time listener, welcome to the program. Welcome to the conversation. You know, the show is all about microbiographies, is what I like to say. We learn about people, interesting people doing interesting things. If you are new to this show, a couple things for, the house cleaning things. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're on, whatever platform. We're on just about everything we can find out there. So all the podcast networks, all of the social media. So please subscribe. The second thing we ask you to do is to stop by the rexandrewsshow.com website. The reason I ask you to do that is we tell these great stories and introduce you to some amazing people, but we can't cover it all. And especially guests like the guest we have today. So does a lot of things. So we have profiles out there. We have links to their websites, their social media, all of those things. And so we're glad to have you there. So check it out. And then the last thing, I'm not bashful. I will beg. Okay. In fact, I beg for those 5 stars. And so I have a caller on today. So I'm going to say I'm a well-dressed beggar. So if you think we're doing a good job, please hit us up with those stars. I have a feature that I've been doing recently on the show because we have people all over the world listening to us. We're currently listened to in 32 countries, a little over 520 cities. And I want to welcome those in Moscow that are listening today. I don't know how you found us, but we're glad to have you over there in Moscow. And I'm excited. Maybe I get a chance to head back there someday. So welcome to folks in Moscow. All right. So great guest here today. As I mentioned, the show's about microbiographies, interesting people doing interesting things. And I've got one here today. Now, today, I just put out a little bit of a warning here today. Most of the time, we do all kinds of interesting topics, but today's going to be some adult content. So if you have little ones listening or ones you're not sure that this is the appropriate, we're not going to get raunchy or anything, but we're going to have some specific adult content. So just listen to the show in an appropriate place. Just warn you there today. So I'm excited about this one because the topic is very interesting. I think it's very needed. So let me introduce our guest. In talking to her, just flat out, she's a teacher. She's just an educator. She's someone who helps learn things. And she's done this across several different disciplines. She's been a fitness instructor. She is an educator. She's an author. Okay. She's working on a book right now. She's about halfway through that process. Acupressure, and she actually is a dental hygienist at the same time. So I don't know, she's kind of a Swiss Army knife type person. So I'd like to welcome to the show today from San Diego, California, Lee Jagger. Lee, how are you?
I'm fabulous, Rex. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Well, it's going to be fun today. We like to get to know people and there's 7.6 billion or whatever the number is, people on the earth. And there's a lot of stories out there. Some are more interesting than others. And so we'll do that. So we're excited to have you. So what I like to do is go back in time and understand how people got to what they're doing. Now, today, and one thing I just didn't mention, we're going to talk about what you're working on in providing to the world is exotic. You're an exotic massage coach, okay? And you help women break through some barriers and use erotic massage to get passion back in their relationships and all those good things. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to know how you got there. Okay. So we're going to go back in time and lots of questions and, we'll just kind of follow the path here. So where I want to start is, where were you born?
I was born in Canada, in
Okay.
British Columbia. Yeah, I'm a Canadian girl. My
Canadian girl?
accent will slip out once in a while, I'm sure.
Okay. Okay. So now were you raised in the same place? Where people are raised can have big impact. I had a guest on the show. Her name is Ellie Soja on the episode, and she moved 63 times before the age of 15. So that has a big influence. She was in refugee camps and all those kinds of stuff. So did you grow up in one place? Did you move around with it? What did that look like?
I grew up in a very rural town
Okay.
until I was 8 years old. And then I moved into, well, closer to the city, but still on the outskirts.
Outskirts.
And in fourth grade, yeah, I was my world was turned upside down at that point.
Okay.
But I moved into this big, huge log house, and we were the envy of all the kids in the new neighborhood because we had this gigantic, huge log cabin.
Wow.
And no one else in the area had a log cabin. So we were the envy of all the new kids. So it was easy to make friends when I moved.
Okay.
Um, and then I stayed there until I moved away from home until, let's see, I was, I guess, 17, 18 at the time.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk a little bit about the environment then. So do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a brother who's 18 months younger than me,
Okay.
and that's the only sibling.
Okay.
Um,
Do you have a good relationship with your brother growing up?
uh, we fought a lot, as siblings do.
Right.
We were close though, like we played together a lot, but we fought a lot too. We couldn't share anything.
Okay.
We couldn't just, we had the favorite plate that was different than all the other plates. And I had to have that plate. And I was offended if he got his sandwich made on that plate. Like
Right.
we fought about petty things, but we're on really good terms now.
Okay, fantastic. So I want to talk about your parents and the influence. Regardless of your age, we all are products of and still live within parameters of impact from our parents. Okay. Now, in the hundreds of interviews that I've done in my radio and then now podcast career, I've kind of found that there are three categories three buckets I put people in from there. The first set of parents is like the launch parents. They're just totally engaged with their kids and pushing them and encouraging them and clearing obstacles and stuff. So just totally involved. That has a big influence. The second bucket that I talk about is sort of the semi-participant parents. Okay. Of course, they love their kids, but because they were so busy eking out a living or buried in a career, a lot of men do that. They run off and busy doing a career, that the kids were loved, but they didn't get all of the support that they really yearned for. Then the last bucket is what I call the struggle bucket. This is difficult, but it causes lots of people to do interesting things. This is the bucket where there might be addiction involved, dysfunction, abuse, extreme poverty, moving around 63 times, stuff like that. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your family. I'd like to know what your parents did. And then let's talk about what that environment was like. Did you have any one of those three buckets, or was there a blend? Tell us a little bit about that.
I would say I we would fit into the second bucket.
Mhm.
My mom was a government worker,
Okay.
and my father was he worked in a sawmill, and the same sawmill my entire life, and he
Mhm.
retired from that. Uh, so I would say we were middle class
Okay.
family. Parents worked full time, so I came home to an empty house,
Okay.
and we didn't have a furnace in our house, so we had to like chop wood, and I had to make a fire when I got home. I woke up in the mornings being able to see my breath, and yeah, so I was, one of those latchkey kids. Although at the
Okay.
time, that was just the
No,
thing,
that's just
and
what you did. Yeah.
it's just what you did. And I didn't feel like that was, I didn't feel that as a limitation at all. I came home, had a snack, and sometimes mom said, "Okay, put that roast in at 3:50 at, when you get home, so that dinner was ready by the time she got home," stuff
Sure.
like that. But I've the only thing that I remember really being involved with it as a kid was like baseball. In
Okay.
elementary school, we played hardball, and that was kind of a fun thing, and we went fishing and stuff.
Sure.
So my parents were sort of involved, but I would say that the most significant thing growing up was I didn't feel a lot of affection.
Okay.
My dad was that strong silent type,
Mhm.
like together quality time
Mm.
was sitting next to him on the couch while he was watching the news. That was our quality time.
Right.
There weren't any like deep conversations. Hey, let's have a family meeting. Something's coming up. Let's talk this out. No, there was no conversation.
Okay.
It was all light. And the only time we had a heart to heart would be a scream, where the pressure cooker lid has blown off and we're screaming and fighting. And the only time I ever heard the words, I love you, was at the end of one of those conversations when they're just trying to, like make things all better, put a band-aid on that really horrible conversation that I walked away with always feeling worse. No resolution, really.
Okay.
So, your father and I love you, kind of placating me. That was the only time I heard those words. Hear them a lot more now.
Okay.
And in my early adulthood, I actually kind of disowned my parents at one point. I had a really rough go of it with my dad, because we didn't really get along, because he didn't really want to accept me as an adult with a thinking mind. And I couldn't have an opinion of my own that was valid. I was still that, stupid kid of his. So I rebelled against that immensely. But now we have a really good relationship. At one point a few years back, I remember thinking, I don't need to shove Lee Jagger down his throat.
Okay.
Maybe I can just be just his daughter. Let him just see me as his daughter and not try to shove my expertise down his throat. Just let him be who he is. And then magically everything got better, and we have a pretty good relationship now. I'm not trying to squash him into a category that I need him to be in.
Right.
And I'm letting him see me the way he sees me. And so coming to that common ground, now we have a great relationship.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my family in a nutshell.
Well, great. Well, that always helps to understand. So you played hardball. Was there anything else that you really did? You talked about going fishing and stuff like that. Was there anything else that you really kind of did as a kid?
I'm 52 now. So I grew up out in the country where
Yeah.
we rode bikes with all, the neighborhood kids, and played marbles and built forts, and we were outside all the time.
Yeah.
I was never in like dance class, or I did gymnastics for a little while, which I quite enjoyed. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of I didn't have a really busy schedule as a kid, other than just going out and playing in the back 40.
Yeah.
And then, listening for your name, dinner's ready,
Yeah.
that's when you came home. I was just, escaping my family life through my friends, and just play as much as I could, and sneaking out in my later high school days and meeting up with friends and whatnot. But
all right. So it sounds like fairly typical for that era. I'm in my 50s.
Yeah.
I'm in my 50s too. Parents pretty much shoved you out the door in the summertime. You didn't come home till it was, mom was yelling for dinner, and often that was when the street lights came on and those types of things. So yeah, I completely
exactly.
understand that.
And I didn't realize everyone grows up in some level of dysfunctional family.
Sure.
But at the time, I didn't know
Okay.
that I had not learned any communication, like interpersonal communication skills. I had no idea until many years later, realized, okay, with boyfriends or other friends, realizing, oh, wow, Lee, you have no idea how to have a tough conversation, is what I call them, where, you have to bring up something that's uncomfortable and have a difficult conversation. I never was good at those difficult conversations because I never had them in my family. And the only time I did have a difficult conversation was when there was screaming involved, and tears and hurt feelings at the end. It never ended well. And so I'm really happy for that upbringing. If my parents ever listen to this podcast, I want them to know that I really love that upbringing, because now I am all about conversation. I am all about having the difficult conversation before it gets difficult, nipping things in the bud when, that's not such a big deal. Well, then that's when you talk about it.
Right.
So when it's just a little niggling thing, and so I'm really, really conscientious about maintaining good conversations with boyfriend, with friends, with anybody I interact with. I'm
Okay.
really big on authentic transparency
Okay.
because of my upbringing.
Because of your upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's the interesting thing. I talk to a lot of people. Sometimes the negative or things that are lacking, people, kids when they grow up are like, I don't want to be anything like that. Um,
Mm.
I dealt with some abuse from my father. My father had a horrible temper. And, I just made a decision. I wasn't going to pass that on. And yeah,
Mm.
I can, anybody else, I can be triggered, but I, that's something I didn't want to pass on to my kids. And so we have the reason why I always want to talk about these pasts is like, it gives us motivations to do things in our life. Maybe it's to repeat those behaviors or to say, hey, I don't want anything to do with that. So
Yeah.
were you a good student?
Um, I did all right. A few A's, a lot of B's, some C's. I High school was just a necessary evil. High school to me was all about the social life.
Okay.
It wasn't about like I didn't even have huge goals.
Okay.
I think I wanted to be an airline stewardess when or a flight attendant. I guess that's
Yeah.
the politically
Yep.
correct term
That's the
now.
term. Sure.
Yeah. I think that was like, and then, but you couldn't do that right out of high school. I realized they wanted more
Right.
mature people going through the program. And so I kind of floundered for a couple years after high school because I just didn't, yeah, high school was just something to get through. It was a social life. I
Ah,
wanted to quit school. But I realized, oh my gosh, if I quit school, then all my friends are at school. So I just said goodbye to my social life. So I stayed in school mostly because that's where all my friends were. So I did not enjoy school. But then when I did go to university after
uh-huh.
and loved it because that's, I was pursuing a Bachelor of Education degree at that time. And that was what I wanted to do. So I was a great student in college. I sucked in high school.
Oh, it's so funny. We have a very similar path. High school, I was so bored in high school, but I was there for the social. Now, I was the kid that was in student council from fourth grade on. I was like senior class president. I spoke at graduation, blah, blah, blah. And it was all about the friends. And I was the guy that knew everybody. I just, that was all it's about. And I could have applied myself in high school, but I was bored with that. I mean, sitting in, this stuff. So I was sort of a B and C student and stuff. I think I graduated middle of my class, but I totally get what you're saying. I mean, my senior year, this is how crazy it was because I worked hard and finished most of my requirements. I had 4 gym classes, a typing class, and a student council. I literally, that was back in the days. I don't think they do this anymore. But you had a gym suit, they had specific
Yeah.
suit, shorts and shirt that the county wanted you to wear and stuff. And so they called me AG, all gym, because that's what it was. And so I understand the whole, well, this is necessary evil. I didn't have plans. I knew I was going to go to college. I didn't know where. I wasn't sitting around going, man, I got to get into Stanford or Princeton or Harvard or CU or something. No, I was just like, I was just kind of, going with the flow. So I get it. So
Right.
another question I want to ask you real quick is, setting your parents aside, okay, was there someone in your formative years who was a really big influence? An uncle, an aunt, a
Oh my
grandmother, a
gosh.
teacher, a coach? Was there someone that you look back and say, wow, this person made an impact?
I didn't live close to any of my relatives. All
Okay.
my relatives lived in Nova Scotia on the
Ah,
East Coast, and I grew up closer to the West Coast.
okay.
And so I didn't have a lot of family influence on the regular anyway.
Okay.
But one of my teachers, Rick Tesler, he was my acting teacher. And
Okay.
I got into drama class. So your all gym class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was acting for me. And so I found like this I guess, this vehicle for self-expression.
Okay.
Um, Huge. It was an outlet. I could be angry on stage and that was acceptable. I could be all these different characters on stage and that was not only acceptable, that was imperative. So I could really explore um, being a bad girl, being a good girl, being a smart girl, being a rowdy girl. I could be all those girls on a stage and get away with it and be
Right.
accepted and be okay. And so he was a really great, really supportive teacher,
Hmm.
um, who really, I think, I hadn't thought about this in years. Rex, this is awesome. He really helped mold my need for unleashed self-expression,
Okay.
unabashed,
Yeah.
um, exploring all of the emotions and discovering, oh, so I don't have to just be me. I could be all these different characters depending on the situation. Like in real life, not just on a stage, but in real life, I could just be whoever I wanted to be, depending on which situation I was in.
Mhm.
To benefit me in whatever way, to be that super polite person when I needed something from that
Right.
person, and we all do it subconsciously to some degree. Um, and I think mostly in the beginning it was very subconscious, but I think acting really opened up a whole different world for me. Like I would, just like anybody, getting up in front of, in English class and giving a book report in front of the class. My paper was shaking and, dry mouth, and I was freaking out. But on the stage, that was different. That was different. And that's how I became a supervisor of fitness leaders. I was going to aerobics one day, and I just had this thought in my mind, I want to be on that stage. I didn't like aerobics. It was a necessary evil. I was just trying to get in shape.
Just trying
But
to get in shape.
something inside me wanted to be on that stage. And during the final stretch, the instructor said, just letting everybody know, at the end of the month, there's a fitness training course coming up for anyone interested in being a fitness instructor. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a sign. And being on that stage helped me to explore the bigger parts of me
Okay.
as well, and to just really shine in front of people and bring out the badass Lee. just the just be the biggest version of me. I started learning that at a very early age, and that has completely influenced who I am now. i'm
Okay.
i'm on a world stage now, so
Right.
it was all training ground my whole life.
So you do the erotic massage coaching real quick so people can follow along with this. We have a lot of listeners in front of their computers or are multitasking on their phone or mobile device. Can you give out real quick how people get a hold of your website, social media, etc.?
Yeah, so on the URL to my website is rockthebedroom.com.
Okay.
And I'm also on Facebook, Lee Jagger Rocks, Rocks, and Instagram, Rock the Bedroom.
Okay.
And and it really is all about not just rocking the bedroom, but rocking, like helping women rock themselves, like embrace their inner goddess, not even just inner sex goddess. Because I have a lot of clients who they don't like sex, like I, when I say, oh yeah, I help women, enjoy sex more and become more creative and confident and playful in the bedroom. But a lot of women they're not even there. They don't like sex. They're like, yeah, I'm happy without it. Just had a guy client the other day. He's like, yeah, I haven't had sex with my wife in 12 years. I mean, he loves her, he doesn't want to leave her, but 12 years.
My
And so,
goodness.
yeah,
You'd
I
have
have
to cut my arm off for that. I mean, that's crazy.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, um, yeah, but what I help women do is to embrace their inner goddess. And when she feels powerful in the bedroom and out of the bedroom, then she's more likely to be more affectionate with that guy. She hasn't been affectionate in a really long time. So, um, yeah, that's my whole thing is I help women just embrace their inner goddess so that they can just be free in the bedroom. They can be um, more playful. They
Okay.
can, actually have confidence and know how to touch a man in a way that will drive him wild, but also feels good to her.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of obligatory sex going on out there, and
Oh yeah.
that's why women say no to their husbands is because they've gotten to a point with the obligatory sex where they're like, I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But they're not expressing what their dissatisfaction is. A lot of women don't even know why they don't like sex. I didn't know why I didn't like sex. I hated sex. I am the
Okay.
last person on the planet who should be teaching people how to embrace their sexuality, and yet I am. It was a journey, but
Okay.
I can relate to all those clients.
Well, there's some stuff I want to unpack there. So first of all, when you're dealing with your clients and stuff, you're dealing with women, is there a trend or something you see that's very common that makes them like, okay, unplug from sex or just not get
Yeah.
enjoyment of it? Is there just sort of something that people feel like it's dirty? I mean, what do you see that's like an underlying trend why people wouldn't? I mean, for me as a man, I got no problem. Let's go anytime you want to go. Let's
Right.
roll. So what do you see as the hangups? Where does that start?
So here's the common thing. Um, so women and men are different.
Sure.
Men, they use sex as their favorite way to connect with us, with
Yes,
women, right?
exactly.
That's your favorite way. That's your way to show her that you love her, that you adore her, that you want to treat her well, that you want to make her feel good. Like you guys have honorable intentions
Hmm.
for the most part. So yeah, I'm generalizing here, but
Okay,
I
sure.
would say that like I've had over 2,000 male clients, and almost all had really good intentions towards their female partner. Women, so we're different. We need to feel connected outside of the bedroom in order for us to want to have sex.
Hmm.
And so if there's something going on where you keep forgetting to take out the trash or something, then she's holding that little bit of that niggling grain of resentment towards you for not ever taking out the trash. This sounds really trivial, but this is what's going
No,
on
no,
inside
no.
of a woman's head, even subconsciously.
I
She's not even
understand
aware
it.
she's doing it.
I understand it.
Right.
You can be in the middle of the act of making love, and they say something like, "Well, this or that," and you're like, "I don't want to talk about that right now."
Right.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, I
Right,
understand.
she's gonna feel like she's getting her needs met outside of the bedroom. That will make her want to connect with you inside of the bedroom. And where it gets to the point where um you just that you mentioned off air, this evolution that relationships take, where if you've been in a relationship for X amount of years, well, sex just naturally wanes. No, it doesn't. There's nothing natural about that. Completely preventable.
Hmm.
But people don't prevent it because they don't realize what's happening kind of like behind the scenes on the back burner of their mind. They don't realize that those little resentments are building and building and building and building. That's why people are like, oh, I didn't do the dishes and she asked for a divorce. Well, you know what? Something was going on for 5 years before that.
Right.
The dishes, that was just the last straw. And
So
so,
so is this a level of complacency? I mean, is it
yeah,
life getting in the way? I mean, let's
a
face
lot
it,
of that.
when you're in a long-term relationship, you've been, married 20, 25 years, whatever, there's a lot going on. You've got kids, you've got jobs and careers and things going on. And It's interesting you talk about the little irritating things that add up, because I don't know if you've
Mhm.
seen that. I gotta get the reference for this, but there's a video out there on YouTube, and this doctor's talking about how men have, blocks, and they're able to bank things into blocks, and so
Right.
they can have a nothing box, and the woman can ask a man, "What are you doing?" and he can say nothing, and it's the truth, right? I mean, that's the box. But then they're able to box things, and they're not connected. But women, everything's connected. Their mind is like spaghetti wire. And so
Yeah.
everything. So the issue of you didn't take out the trash is really about you didn't respect me, right?
Right.
And then now I'm mad at you for that. So it really isn't the issue that it took out the trash, but they don't communicate it that way. Now,
Right.
that is connected to all these other things. And so when intimacy comes around, there's still that connection of, hey, I'm still upset with you because you didn't respect me by not taking out the trash.
Yeah, it's like all those little things, like all the I would tell my son this all the time. I'm like, dude, please pick up your socks and your dirty shirt and like all that stuff off the living room floor. And he's like, yeah, I'll get to it later. I'm like, no, no, no. You don't understand. Those things are like yelling at me right now. I can't compartmentalize that.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the dirty dishes, the papers on the steps, the clothes on the floor. All the stuff is yelling at women. It's just yelling at us, yelling at. We are such great multitaskers, but that means that we're still thinking about all the stuff. You
Right.
guys, oh, you don't know how blessed it is that you can
Oh,
compartmentalize all that stuff. You guys are like single focused.
yep.
So you are totally focused on that one thing until, to take it to completion, and
Mm-hmm.
then you move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so that's why women, we see you sitting there watching a football game and we come in and we see nothing wrong with interjecting and saying, hey, can you do this while you're
Right.
watching the game, blah, 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 because that's what we do.
Right.
We're multitasking all the time and we're dealing with 5 different things all at once. You guys don't. So
Oh,
while we're having sex with you, in our minds, we're complaining to you and we're having this conversation internally in our minds. And we're not saying it externally because we want to keep the peace, or don't want to hurt your feelings, or lots of different reasons. But yeah, that's going on in our heads. And so, like, I invite couples to have sexual conversations outside of the bedroom. Like, if there's something that's going on that is not satisfactory in the bedroom, then you got to tackle it outside of the bedroom. Clean it up. And then when you're in the bedroom, it's a much better experience for
right.
both
For
parties.
both parties. So
But
is
yeah.
there a technique for women to, I don't know, break or stop or interrupt? Can their minds even work that way to say, okay, I'm going to set aside all of these things that are irritating me, so that way I can enjoy this, or break it down, or maybe possibly compartmentalize it for the moment? Is there a technique for that? Because sometimes a couple can be in a situation where the woman's like, don't drag this out, get this over with, move along. And the
Oh,
man's just
yeah.
the man's just like, wow,
Well,
I'm enjoying this moment.
okay. So what's going on with that? And I'll come back to your initial question, but what's going on with that? When she's like wanting to get sex over with, it's because she's having the wrong kind of sex. This is like the core foundation of everything I teach,
Okay.
is that, and I just had Paulina, one of my clients, just a couple days ago. She said, okay, so there's, in my mind, there's intercourse,
Mm-hmm.
there's having oral sex.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really into oral sex, so that leaves intercourse, and that's kind of when you're going through menopause and there's vaginal dryness, well, that's uncomfortable. So she's like, yeah, I'm just not into anything. I don't want to have sex, and if there's anything happening, I want it to happen quickly. So, but then she didn't realize, oh, that's she had a limited view of what sex could look like.
Right.
And that's why I do erotic massage, is because it's sexual interaction, but you don't have to have intercourse. If
Mm-hmm.
if you're a woman and maybe you're bloated, or you're on your period, or you're going through menopause and the hormonal changes making it uncomfortable and all that, it's great for the guys because well, the way I teach it anyway, erotic massage can feel better than sex. I've heard those words uttered from men's mouths so
Right.
many times. Oh my God, that was better than sex. Meaning intercourse. But also she's in charge. You're not just, she is in charge. She's not, a lot of women, okay, well, think about this. Sex, intercourse is internal for women.
Yes.
You are,
It's an
to use a,
it's
it's
an
an
invasive.
invasion.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't really want to use that word because it's got a negative connotation, but it is invasive.
Yeah.
For you guys, it's external.
Yeah.
It's all on the outside, right? And so for women, we literally have to let you break through our barrier, literally and emotionally, and it's a submissiveness. It's a little bit, so women who are having obligatory sex, they've also got this victim story going on in their mind.
Okay.
Like, this is something that's done to me. This is not something I'm doing. This is done to me. And I'm going to put out, and I'm going to, keep the peace, and I'm going to do this. But another, resentment penny into the piggy bank.
Okay.
So stuff like that adds up over time, and they end up getting turned off of sex altogether when if they just knew that there was a different kind of having sex.
Yeah.
And erotic massage opens up all kinds of things because it also opens up conversation. And there's a lot of conversation not happening in the bedroom.
Okay.
A lot of unexpressed disappointments or desires, all of it. The good, the bad, nothing's being talked about in the bedroom. It's so quiet in there. And erotic massage really draws out conversation. So you can start getting real. You can start having authentic conversations with your partner to find out what it is that they really need. What is it that they're not getting? And finding that compromise to provide your partner what they need, but also not sacrifice what you need in the same token.
So going back to my original question, is it really conversation? Is the conversation the, I guess, icebreaker to bust through those bottled up irritations?
Yeah, and I would say yes, conversation is vital. It's vital. However, there's something about touch. Like, as human beings, we need physical touch. For you men, physical touch is one of your top 2 love languages.
Yeah.
Right? So we all need physical touch. Women, men, physical touch is like way up there for most people as a love language where they feel loved, cherished, needed, all that. I have found that even couples who are having a really, really tough time, if the woman will just, not the man, because you want to touch us. There's no problem asking you to touch a woman.
Yeah.
But for a woman to step into her power and to just do a couple simple techniques that don't even have to touch his penis, really, but are so loving and nurturing, super easy. You go to rockthebedroom.com and there is a free resource there for women. The easiest thing you'll ever do, you'll look at it and you'll be like, okay, that's not going to do anything. That's dumb. Oh my gosh. Your guy, you can see the guy in the video. He is squirming under your touch when you do this one thing. It's called powdered sugar. It's the easiest thing in the world. But the reason why I offer that for free is because it is a foundation of everything.
Okay.
And if a woman will just soften just enough to put her hands lovingly on her man's body, not really in the realm of this is a sexual thing we're doing, and like just taking what you know as sex and throwing it out the window for just a moment.
Okay.
And just put her hands lovingly on her guy's body. Magic happens. Like I had Melissa, Melissa and Mark, one of my clients, they were going through like erectile dysfunction issues.
Hmm.
Um, they were thinking about going to couples therapy. Like there was a lot to unpack with everything that was going on. Their relationship was heading towards Splitsville. And just through the touch, like she's thinking she would have to sign on with, years of couples therapy and lots of talking, lots of, verbally hashing out a lot of stuff. And they're coaches too, so they get
Right.
the the importance of counseling and therapy and all that, and I'm not discrediting that at all. But just through the touch, through lovingly letting down your barrier and lovingly touching your partner in these specific ways that I teach, no erectile problems whatsoever.
Hmm.
No blue pill. Like years of counseling avoided just through the touch.
Just through touch.
Because and all the conversation that ensues from that. Like touch is so healing. And women especially, we've got these boundaries up. We don't want to even kiss you. We don't want to, we shy away from a lot of affection that you guys are dying to give us,
Yep.
because we think that, oh, if I lean into that kiss too much, he's going to misread that as, oh, I want to have sex. And maybe I don't want to have sex. So I'm just like, I'm going to cut out all affection so that he doesn't misread anything.
Right.
And that's when things start breaking down, is that the guy's feeling so lonely.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So Mother Teresa, everything I learned about sex, I learned from Mother Teresa. She said these words: the most terrible poverty is is loneliness and the feeling of being unwanted.
Oh my goodness. That's phenomenal.
Right. Right? I mean, how many men are feeling so lonely in their relationship because he's not touched? He goes to lovingly spread his love on her and she pulls away, or she hasn't touched his penis. Guys, you guys identify hugely with your genitals.
Sure.
And so to be denied, like, she hasn't touched your penis in years and years and years, that's a punch in the gut. Right? So that's loneliness. That's feeling unwanted. And women don't realize that. Most women don't know. You need to touch his penis. Like, you gotta, like, lovingly, not that you need to make that an indication that you are wanting sex, but just not be a taboo area. Not be one of those, or I'm going to touch it and just to, get him hard and just to get this thing done. And then I'm out of here, because that doesn't feel good. And you guys can read that. You can feel it.
Sure.
You could feel it. So I help women fall in love with men's private parts. Like, it becomes a playground that they are eager to get all over, because now she knows what to do with it. She's feeling confident. She's feeling creative. She's feeling playful. She's coming into her own power in the bedroom. No longer is being in the bedroom something, we're having missionary sex like we always do, and same old boring thing. She's calling the shots. She's making it interesting. She's spicing it up. And he is loving every second of that, obviously.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you're in that starvation phase,
right,
starve for the loneliness and feeling unwanted, as I mean, every man's been there. I can.
Oh yeah.
So if you're in that state of starvation, I mean, even just a little bit of that feeling like you're desired is over the top. I mean, it just is over the top.
Right.
Now, I want to ask you a question about this, because it's something that happens. Okay. Let's say you're in a marriage, it's 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. Okay. Things have done what I would call obligatory sex. So it's just a marital obligation, right? You just
right.
schedule. You learn your techniques and these things. How do you take a mechanical process that it's become, okay, and then try not to apply the same mechanical to what you're doing? Okay. So, okay.
Right.
So you give all these instructions to go touch your, what was you called it, powdered sugar.
Yeah.
And so, but how do you make that so it's not mechanical? Because you're in a
Mm,
mechanical state. This is just what you do. It's Saturday night or it's Sunday
yeah.
morning or it's the once a week, whether I need it or not, kind of thing.
It is a brilliant question. And yes, very valid. It's sort of like, well, okay, initially it will feel okay. Actually, let me back up.
Okay.
So think about it this way. Marriage is getting stale, having a rough time. You book a vacation to Costa Rica. When you get off the plane, maybe there's still a little niggling, like, you know, you were complaining too much on the airplane, blah, blah, blah. I'm still, like there's still a little bit of head button, but you're in Costa Rica. There's some softening going to happen. You've completely changed the scenery. You're not in your usual routine that triggers all those things that
Right.
set you off, that, you've got all these charges that are attached to everything in your house, right? Vacations soften people. That's why they go on vacation. We're going on a vacation to get the spark back. And yeah, it softens people. Problem is, when you come back home a couple weeks later, or even a couple months later, you go back to the same old, same old. So initially, when you go on that vacation, it's going to feel still a little bit like you felt before you got on that airplane.
Mm-hmm.
But then the warm water and the soft sand and the warm sun and the margaritas and the bar at the pool and all, it softens people.
Okay.
It's a start, right?
Right.
Okay. So same kind of thing happens when you start doing powdered sugar or pancake or guacamole. I name all the techniques off food, after food. So when you start doing these things, it's not only just doing them, it's how you do them. So I coach people on how to touch your partner in these completely different ways. It's like, okay, if you smile and you're smiling and smiling and smiling, it's really hard to be in a bad mood after a while. In fact, you're probably going to start
Right.
laughing after a while. Right? If you're in a bad mood and you forcibly smile, and you're like, yeah, I'm gritting it out. My teeth are grinding together, but I'm smiling. After a while, you will soften. So same thing with the techniques. At first, it's going to feel a little bit like you're learning how to dance. There's a few steps to follow before
Mm-hmm.
you can really get into the music and swing your hips and really get into it. You got to learn the steps first. So there will be a momentary awkwardness, maybe.
Yeah.
Just the fact that she's going to say to her guy, okay, so honey, I want to try something new tonight. So I'd like you to lay down on the bed naked. And for 15 minutes, we're not going to have sex. But here's what I'd like to do to you. I would like to touch your body in ways that I've never touched it before.
Okay.
And I'd like to touch your body in ways that you've never felt before. In intimate ways, you will be naked. Do I have your permission to touch your genitals? I bet you've never asked your spouse that.
No.
Do I have your permission, right? Like showing your partner respect. So there's already built in so much communication you've never even had.
Right.
That automatically lends itself to a whole new level of respect. You've set a container, just 15 minutes. I'm taking this course on how to show up as a better version of myself for you. And I want to get to know you and your body and our intimate time on a level that we've never gone before.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be open to that? The guy's never going to say no to that, for one thing.
No, that's not going to
right?
happen.
And just the fact that that's how it starts. Okay, that's the most awkward part right there.
Okay.
That's it. So once he's laying down, then he's like, okay, so what are you going to do? And then she's like, okay, so powdered sugar. So I'm just going to try this. So it's not going to feel all that, awkward, just putting out. It's not going to feel putting out because she is in charge of every second of it. It's not going to feel obligatory in any way. It's not going to feel mechanical. It may feel like, all right, so am I pushing hard enough? Am I pushing light enough? Am I going slow enough? Or do you like this faster? Like there's that mechanical part of it, trying to figure out, okay, how does my partner really like to be touched?
Right.
That's as mechanical as it gets. It just, how I teach it, it lends itself to being a whole, it's Costa Rica.
Okay.
It's a whole different scene. So it's not going to feel at all mechanical the way, like when people find out I teach women how to touch men's privates, they're thinking up and down hand job,
Right.
whacking him off. That is the furthest thing. That doesn't at all resemble what I teach women. At no point is it fast and furious, looking like you're trying to get it over as soon as possible so that you can get your hands off his penis and go wash your hands and be done with it.
Right.
None of what I teach feels like that at all. And I know for a lot of men, they've had hand jobs where, yes, it felt mechanical. And you could tell she's trying to hurry you across the finish line so that she can be done with it.
Right.
And nothing that I teach resembles that.
Okay, so a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
I hear the key element here is that the woman's in control.
Yes.
And that is a lot contradictory to typical views of sex, because let's face it, the way the human species are programmed, men tend to be the drivers of wanting sex, and there is an element of men being in control. Okay, so that kind of thing, and that's just sort of the traditional male and female roles. So if you are in your 50s or 60s or 40s and stuff like that, you've grown up in a world where it's, I wouldn't say dominance, male dominance, but male led. Okay, and that extends into the bedroom. Is it hard for some women to then take control because it's not something that they've normally done?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but for a different reason than you're thinking.
Okay, well, let's unpack that.
Yeah. So when I first approach women with the idea of her taking control in the bedroom, it's not that she's not used to taking control. It's that, okay, think about it. If you get on a stage, if someone calls you up on a stage and there's an auditory full of people, there's an audience, and you're expected to go on that stage to tell a joke, and you have no jokes, but you're pushed on the stage, that's a scary place to be.
Right.
Like if you come onto your podcast and you have no, and you're doing it live, you have no guest, you have no topic, and you are not as well versed at, talking as you are now, but you got nothing. Like you have no agenda, you've got no notes, you got nothing. And it's dead air. Only your viewers can see you. Your listeners can actually see you because it's like video as well.
Right.
That's a scary place to be. No woman wants to be in control. No woman wants to be in control in the bedroom when they don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
So I give women the tools to know what to do. In fact, know what to do that men can't even do for themselves. So she's not only in control of touching, she's in control of doing something that's going to blow his hair back. That's going to blow, blow him away because he's never experienced it, because he can't do it himself. And I can tell you for a fact, most of my dozens and dozens and dozens of techniques, women don't even know.
Okay.
No other women are teaching this. Women don't want to take control only because they don't know what to do. All they know is, okay, so I know what's going to happen in the bedroom. I don't like what's happening in the bedroom. I'm bored of missionary sex. I don't even really want to have intercourse. It's really not my favorite. I like foreplay. I like receiving foreplay, but I don't like giving it because I don't really know what to do. And I don't want to look inept. I'd rather look selfish than look dumb. No one likes to look inadequate in the bedroom. No one likes to look bad in bed. And so women just don't know what to do to take control. So taking control is very scary. So you give women tools, easy tools you could do in your sleep. Then you start opening the door. And once you realize how fun it is to be in control, it does feel good to have a man, roll you over and throw you on the bed and go crazy on you,
Right.
because you're still in control. You still have a voice. You still can say, actually, honey, that thing that you've done for the last 15 years, I actually don't like that. I never have. I'm so sorry I never said anything. I just didn't want to hurt your feelings. Like, no woman ever confesses that,
Right.
because she hasn't found her voice and she doesn't feel confident enough to actually express that. So by having physical tools in your sexual toolbox, so to speak, that unleashes verbal tools as well, to be in control verbally, to be in control physically, so that you are feeling filled up in the bedroom. You're asking for what you want, you're expressing what you don't want. Sex can be really, really fun when you stop doing the things that you don't like and you discover things you didn't even know existed that, oh my gosh, you do like.
Okay.
Then
So
it's fun.
it's an interesting concept. I was just listening to and following along. If I'll use this analogy because it's the one that came to me. If a woman has been used to riding in the passenger seat, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you tell her to get behind the wheel, and she's never driven, she doesn't know where the brake pedal is, doesn't, the turn signals, don't know how to stop, doesn't know how to decelerate, accelerate, then it's
Yep.
probably a very awkward thing. And so
Mhm.
when you switch places, the men's in the passenger seat now and there, I can see how this works, where if they don't know how to drive, they then, they don't have the skills, they don't understand. And so that becomes awkward, scary, and they don't want to do it. And she's like, put me back to the passenger seat. Let's get this over with, kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
can I can see that. Now, okay, so this happens a lot, I think, in particular in the age range that you and I are in their 50s and stuff.
Mhm.
Brought up in traditional homes, okay? Because things are different today than it was, 50 or 40 years, 30 years ago. And maybe what was passed down to the women is you don't want to be the loose, the loose girl.
Right.
Sex is something that is just this sacred thing. It's not a playful thing. Maybe there's an element of shame to it, that's dirty, or those types of things. Or good girls are not respected if they do X, Y, and Z and those things.
Yeah.
Does that play? Is there a commonality that you see with that? And it may not be age specific, but it seems like that I've seen that, experience that, talk to friends, kinds of stuff,
Oh,
not
yeah.
kissing and telling. How do you help women get through that? Because I don't think some women are connected to that.
Oh, absolutely. I think, regardless of age, we are all influenced that way through media, movies. Um, yeah, we have a warped idea of what actually happens in the bedroom based on Hollywood, based on, what we could hear our parents
Yeah.
doing in the room next. I could hear my parents having sex. Never was there ever one word uttered. You don't talk in the bedroom, you breathe heavy. That's
Yeah.
about it.
Right.
That's what I learned. And yeah, any girl who had, boyfriend after boyfriend after boyfriend or whatever, oh, she was a slut.
You're right. So
So
and
yeah, we're
the other,
totally slutting.
so sorry for the interruption, but the other side of that coin is it's almost a badge of honor for men to be the conquest and out. And I've had all these girls,
Right.
and it's you're the guy, you're the player, you're cool, and that kind of stuff. But for women in society, in Western cultures and lots of cultures, that's taboo. You don't want to be the slut, the whore, the those types of things. And so
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
you
So if you start enjoying sex, then sometimes there's a little bit of a backlash. In your brain, you're like, oh my God, I'm a slut. And sometimes that can happen. Not always, but there's sometimes that niggling thing going on. Or, if I'm trying to take charge, then, I'm feeling like a prostitute. I'm feeling, like a hooker. Like I'm a yeah, so there are things that are there are negative connotations that are attached to women who really enjoy sex, who want to have a lot of sex. That can play a part.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But one thing that you touched on, so when men are considered studs if they are promiscuous.
Right.
And but women are seeing guys as, oh, that's guys are pigs. That's all they want. They just want sex.
Yeah.
And so what's even more damaging, well, I don't know about more damaging, but very damaging for a woman to have this ingrained in her psyche is that men are pigs. Men are just sex mongers.
Hmm.
And they're not.
That's all you
Men
want.
don't just want one thing. Well, yeah, they do. They want connection. Sex
Exactly.
is their favorite way to connect, but they're not just trying to bang it out. They want to connect with you. And this is a really fun way for them to connect with you, ladies.
Um,
So, but women, we don't, if he's going straight for reaching for her pants, she's like, oh, great,
yeah.
another one, but she doesn't realize he's got good intentions. This is his way of trying to connect with you and make you feel good. And he's attracted to you. And sex is not a bad thing in his mind like it is in yours.
Right.
So we're zigging and guys are zagging and we're
Well,
missing each other's
there's one
attention.
element I wanted to kind of bring out because I think you're touching on it, but when you talk about good intentions, okay,
Mhm.
um, for many men, I would even say myself included, sex is that level of intimacy that you're craving. Intimacy is different than sex. The act of sex
Yes.
that's the sex act, but there's that intimacy that you crave to say it's okay. It's that intimacy to be connected, to say I just want to be lost in you. I
Mhm.
wanted that experience of time where nothing else matters, and I'm lost in your body, and you can't, you know that's it. Just but being lost in your partner's body from man it's bliss. It's a piece of heaven,
It's the
because
ultimate.
it's the ultimate. Everything else
Yeah.
is blocked out, and if you're, in my opinion, if you're doing it right, you want that to last a long time.
Mhm.
So the active climax, whether it happens in intercourse or oral or any other type of way, that's almost like, dang, I don't want that. Now you do want it, but it's like, no, I want, and I don't think a lot of women understand, like you say, good intentions. Man, I want that period of time to be lost in you. I love that to last for hours. Now it often doesn't, because
Yes.
you do come, because you then the primordial instincts take over. Okay, I need to get to a climax and those types of things. But I would
Right.
share with any woman that that is an area that a man just you crave. I mean, it's a hunger, just like if you were
Oh, yeah.
hungry, I've been out working all day, or I worked out, and those types of things. I don't think a woman understands the act of sex is sex, but that connection and that being lost in your body that's what you're looking for.
Exactly. And that's the magic of erotic massage
Okay.
is that there is an element of that like there's a whole section on the art of the tease
Okay.
where edging where you bring a man close to an orgasm and then you back away. It's not like you take your hands off his body. You're doing other things, but you kind of you tone it down a little bit so
Right.
that you draw out the turned on state for as long as you want and just
Right.
it's intoxicating having that control. As a woman, like no, I'm not going to let you have an orgasm. I'm not quite done with you yet.
Right.
And then backing him away and then getting him close again and then backing away and making that happen for a long time. It's such a turn on for a woman to be in that driver's seat, to have that kind of control. And then there's a lot of things that you do on a man's body that if a man were to do on a woman's body would feel equally as good. And women, we need to be ramped up.
Sure.
Most women can't just, have an orgasm in 30 seconds.
No.
We need to be warmed up before we even get into the bedroom.
Yeah.
We need to be warmed up. And
I
so,
learned in a I think it was in high school that I took a class. It was something about health and sexuality and stuff. Anyway, the teacher just said, women are crock pots and men are microwaves. I mean, that's just,
yes, good
slow cook,
analogy.
slow cookers versus instant cook, instant
Yeah,
cook.
and there's that element of we want to feel like you are getting lost in us. We want to feel like you are luxuriating in our body.
Hmm.
And and if a man just sticks his penis in a woman's body right away, that doesn't feel like he's luxuriating. Like, meander your way to the bullseye. Explore all the other territories of her body that have nothing to do with her sexual parts first. That is my
Right.
that is my advice to men. And women will show men how to do that when they do the erotic massage, because you do the same thing with men. Men don't want women to just like get on his penis and start whacking him off right away. Not really. When they experience the tease and touching all the different areas of his body before she even gets there. And then even when she gets there, she's like just grazing his scrotum and just like barely touching his penis and just like teasing, 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 teasing. Oh, he'll never go back to quickies.
Yeah.
He will want that more. And that's where the intimacy comes from.
All right. Well, you've opened Pandora's box. There's so many things that people are
So
going to want
much.
to understand. So, how do you deliver your coaching today? I mean, what's the process? How do people engage you?
Well, when you go to rockthebedroom.com and you get the free resource, then it puts you into my world. And like 3 or 4 times a year, I do these live online events, like 5-day Rock the Bedroom challenge. I just had one, and where I actually get on for like 90 minutes a day for 5 days, and I introduce you to my world. I even do a live demo on a guy, a naked man. I do a demo on one of the days to show you a few actual hands-on, literally hands-on techniques. And to just, dip your toes in. Like you say, you jump into the driver's seat of a car, and there's all the million moving parts that you don't know how to operate. Well, I show you one little thing at a time to make it super easy for you to dive into this world. And so just by going to rockthebedroom.com, get the free thing. You're in my world. I'll let you know when the next challenge is on. And there's
Okay.
other courses. I have date night erotic massage, which is something you could learn today.
Sure.
It's on my site as well. And you could do a very yummy erotic massage on your guy tonight. Um, and so there are a few programs on my website that you could jump into. Um, but first, just get introduced to my world, and I will drip it easily and so it's digestible, so it's
Okay.
not scary.
Yeah. I just, as I listen to you and thinking through experiences and things, I think probably it's like anything else. The hardest part is just to start,
It really
get
is, and
past
it's
the
not as scary as
awkwardness.
you
No,
think. Like,
no.
it's when someone gives you the exact words to say or the exact things to do, and you've only got like one thing to do or one thing to say. Anyone can do one thing, especially when it's super, 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 super simple and easy.
Hmm.
Um, because I was that scared person, and I am a teacher at heart. So I broke it down to, okay, what would I've taught myself when I was 22 and didn't know a darn thing and was avoiding the bedroom because I didn't want to
Hmm.
look stupid. And so it is geared towards people who don't want to look bad in bed, who are a little freaked out. And a person who's totally okay in the bedroom, who just wants to spice up an already amazing marriage, then they can go at their own pace and gulp it back if they want.
Right.
But
So there's an
yeah,
element in this, I think, of lack of confidence, I would imagine. And
yeah,
you probably have to help a lot of your clients uh, develop that confidence, because you're switching roles. If what you're driving here
yeah,
is that the female, I mean, the woman becomes in control. she may not have a lot of confidence with that.
Yeah, and
That's
there's
probably
exactly, Rex. There women women won't admit it outwardly all that often, but we do feel a lack of confidence in the bedroom just on the regular.
yeah.
We don't have your parts. We don't know what to do with your parts. So, so yeah, but it's like learning how to drive. You can read the manual a million times. You will never be confident in driving
Until you do it.
unless you actually just sit in this driver's seat and just get a feel for the steering wheel in your hands. Don't even turn on the ignition. Just put your put your hands on the steering wheel and just sit there. And then, one step at a time, but you got to actually do it.
You got to do it
So,
like anything
yeah,
else.
and you don't get the confidence in order to do it. Doing it will give you the confidence. Like such confidence that I don't even know what rejection means. My world has no rejection. Like if I was to ask a guy on a date and he said no, in my mind, I'd be saying, oh, honey, I feel so sad for you. You will never get to experience the bliss that my hands could deliver to you. Like you just lost out on a gold mine.
Oh,
I am God's
that's
gift
funny.
to man. Is going on in my brain. That sounds conceited, but it's just a fact.
It's a
And
fact.
so when you're walking around, or if you're not even in a relationship, you're dating, you're sitting across the table from that guy on that first date, you're not thinking, "Oh boy, I hope he likes me," or "This is going really well. I think this might be, leading to something a little more intimate later tonight. I don't know what to do." Like all these self-doubt, the monkey mind chatter going on in your head. There's none of that when you dive into the world of erotic massage because you're sitting across from the table from the guy going, "Oh, you're gonna like me." like like that confidence,
Oh,
that's irreplaceable.
yeah,
That
that is.
that bleeds into all aspects. Like your boss, oh yeah, you're gonna walk in there and ask for that raise or negotiate a better work deal or whatever. Like you're not intimidated by that guy in the grocery store who just butt in front of you. Like it just bleeds out into all aspects of your life when you have that level of confidence. So is it worth it taking that one step and putting your hands on that steering wheel? Heck yeah.
Yeah, I see
It
that.
really is. Like it just affects all areas of your life.
Well, I got one last question for you, and it's a little bit left-handed question.
Okay.
It'll come out. This I get most people with this. Um, in this world, we all have this, in the Western cultures especially, we have this concept called a bucket list. Things we
Mhm.
want to do before our time is through. I've actually interviewed the bucket list guy. His name is Trav Bell. He's down in Melbourne. Interesting guy. What an interesting mate, as he would say.
Mhm.
Talking about purposeful life and stuff. But anyway, bucket list, things we want to do. Now, there's an opposite of a bucket list. There's always an opposite of everything in the world, right? The bucket list, that list rhymes with bucket and starts with an F, but I'm not going to say that. So it's the F it list, right? Okay. Now, what I want to know from you today, Lee, is because you've been very transparent, walked us through some very I wouldn't say delicate conversation, but yes, it is because it's awkward that. So this teaches us the listener a little bit more about you. So what might be an item or two that's on your effort list? And I'll give you a couple examples like for mine. People who listen to the show know that I'm never going to have a collection of pet snakes. Just not interested. I'm not eating any more monkey brains or sardines or caviar. You can keep all those. Those are on the effort list. And then there's one experience I had that was just horrifying. I will never again do a Lakota Sioux sweat lodge. Okay, I did that right here in Colorado. The idea of excessive heat, excessive humidity, claustrophobia, excessive drumming and chanting all at the same time, endless, and a slice of nudity. No, I did an episode on it. It was a horrifying experience for me. I went there with an open mind and I left scarred. So, what might be an item or two, things, experiences, whatever, that might be on your bucket list or your effort list?
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. You're asking me that question because I'm the kind of girl who will try anything.
I would have guessed that possibly.
I've jumped out of planes. I've done lots of different crazy things. Um,
Well, would you hang out
so
with it? Would you hang out with a mouse in your house, or would you? I mean, What might be
So
something that'd be like that?
one thing that would definitely be on the effort list would be being polite and like politely putting on the face of, yeah, okay, I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to be polite and acquiesce to receiving um anyone disrespecting me.
Okay.
Like, you know, uh I have zero tolerance for for disrespect, I guess would be a good umbrella term. Like
Okay.
anyone who doesn't want to treat me or anyone I'm around with respect. Um, I'm not the kind of person who would just put on that polite face and just take it.
Okay.
I have zero tolerance for that.
Okay.
Yeah, lack of respect. I placed great emphasis on treating people really well.
Well, I'll tell you what,
And
this has been an awesome conversation because you've been very transparent, helping us walk through somewhat of an awkward topic, but very, very needed. I
yeah,
think it's very needed in all kinds of relationships because life takes over, life happens, things can get stale, things can get routine. And, we are here to experience joy, and sometimes we let that go. So I think that you're doing awesome stuff. Going to get you back when your book gets published. Have you got a title for your new book yet?
I have a couple different working titles, but I haven't settled on one yet. So I don't actually want to say it out loud
Okay, well,
because it'll probably be different.
that's all right. We'll get you back on when that is a reality. And so I want to thank you for coming on today. It's been very eye-opening. It's been a great conversation, get to know you, what you're up to. I just think it's wonderful what you're doing because, you know, a lot of people, when they talk about putting spice back into relationships, they don't really know. They don't have a handbook. They don't know how to do
Yeah.
that. And not everybody's going to run off and it's kind of like going to one of those
Mhm.
personal development seminars. You go see Tony Robbins and stuff. You get all jazzed up and woohoo, and then 24 hours later you're back to life, right? So the trip to
Exactly.
Costa Rica's, the run to Cancun, the up to Calgary or whatever it happens to be, that's not a sustainable activity to put spice back in your life.
Yeah, it's a band-aid.
It's a band-aid,
Yeah.
it's a short-term fix. And so what I like about you're doing is the fact that you're giving people skills to turn the tables, look at it different, but it's a lifetime skills like learning a bike. Now you know what to do because let's face it, as life goes on, you don't have time for those temporary fixes and they never solve the problem. So I think you're doing awesome
Yeah.
stuff.
Thank you so much, Rex. I really appreciate your open mind and that you're willing to shed light on this delicate subject that is sometimes awkward to talk about. And I really appreciate you just going there. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's
Thank
been
you for
fun.
making this a fun
All
conversation for
right.
me.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up for today's episode. We want to thank Lee for coming on. And so do visit her website, rockthebedroom.com. We also would recommend that you do stop by the rexandrewshow.com website so people, you can get profiles. We have profiles out there on all of our guests. We generally have about 30 to 60 people in line to interview. So lots of interesting up and coming people. Tune back in, follow Lee, connect with her on our social media, get to her website. Great stuff, good information. So until next time, thank you, Lee, for coming on. And we'll say what I say at the end of every episode is be safe, but be bold and make it a great day.